All right, Battlefield. Not bad. I still got some things I think you should change, but not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, let's get the obvious joke out of the way. Wow, Battlefield, way to do the bare minimum after finally listening to us after, what are we on, 10 years at this point now? All right, look, I get it. I truly do. And as I've said, ever since Battlefield 5, Battlefield 2042, and even 6 right now, as much fun as I am having with this beta, do not pre-order this game. Wait for the reviews to come out. Even if the beta goes flawlessly, guess what? The release could be hot garbage. We've seen it before. However, that being said, this is a fun beta, and I highly recommend for anyone who is on the fence about this game, go and try it out. It's a free beta for 2 weekends, and hopefully they have one in September as well, because right now, I only get to play for like 1 or 2 days, and then I have to like get a bunch of recording done before family comes and visits. So yeah, it's been a whole thing. But there are some stuff I want to go over when it comes to the beta. We got a lot of positives. We've got a few things I wish could definitely be changed, and one very big thing that they really need to fix, which we'll get into later. So let me know your thoughts down below. How are you enjoying the beta? Do you think it's good? Think it's bad? Just give me your overall thoughts. And as an added bonus, what is your favorite Battlefield game? For me personally, pure nostalgia, Bad Company 2. The one I've probably had the most fun and put the most hours into, probably Battlefield 4. I also put a lot into 3. That's besides the point, because some people still call them the same game. But regardless, let's go and talk about this, because overall, DICE, you're doing a pretty good job. Now, like I said at the very beginning, this beta has actually been a very successful launch for a beta. And I know that's a very low bar to set for these, because they should at least be somewhat playable. But if you've played any of the betas in the past, and especially if you've played any of the alphas, they're not exactly the greatest. Let's just put it at that. But regardless, though, Battlefield 6 has been doing a great job so far. Like I said, it's nowhere near perfect. It's a beta. I completely understand that. I'm still surprised this game is going to be releasing on October, is it 11th, I believe it's releasing? So like only 2 months at the time of this recording. But regardless, it's been pretty good so far. One of the things that I'm actually very impressed about is the gunplay. Now, Battlefield, for the most part, has always had fun gameplay. And while I'm not the biggest fan of the time to kill, I do feel you die a little bit faster here with certain weapons and just how much damage is done to you. So maybe tone it down just a little bit there, DICE. Again, as somebody who came off of, again, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, while the time to kill was definitely a little bit different in each of those games, this one definitely feels faster. And again, I know that a lot of games these days, especially for if you're playing Call of Duty, or like for me personally, I play the finals a lot, it definitely is a lot faster than those older games. But with the way that Battlefield has always generally worked, you know, you're especially playing Conquest, you're going from point to point, you're having vehicles, you're going across these huge open areas and everything. Getting downed in like 2 to 3 shots, not my cup of tea personally. But again, maybe it's just something I have to simply get used to. Or DICE, if you want to tone it down just a little bit, just like on whatever slider you've got in your programming, just down one, just a little bit. And I think honestly it'd be really good. But one of the things I absolutely love about the gameplay is the fact that the attachments feel like they actually matter this time around. If you played Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, there was a set combo for attachments, and that was it. That was all you went for. However, with these, I noticed that even with a couple of the very basic barrel attachments that I had, that one was definitely really good for close quarters, and then I simply switched one, and it helped a lot with long distance because I actually burst fired, which is really nice. When I was watching the preview event that they had, I was watching these people down just hordes of enemies like no tomorrow, and some people were even posting these clips online of just holding down the trigger, and you just shot straight, and I was like, oh god, this is becoming like, you know, Call of Duty and everything, where you just literally just fire across the way. And I'm like, where's the burst firing? Where's, you know, recoil and all that stuff? Like, where is it, DICE? so far, at least with the limited amount of time I've played, it seems to be there, minus the overpowered shotgun, which I know they're changing and everything. And they've luckily been handing out a bunch of lists and everything. They even gone online and said, look, the beta does not have the updated balance that we've done already and everything like that. But we'll just have to wait and see. Again, that is why do not pre-order, because we still have to wait for the full release and to see exactly how well post-launch is going to go, because I myself am personally worried that it is going to be very split, because there supposedly is a battle royale. Roll the eyes there on that one. That I'm just like, oh god, seriously, a battle royale, and they're going to split their resources to focus on that, because all the free-to-play players want to go over there, and they're not going to do it for the people who bought the game to play the normal conquest, rush, breakdown, all that stuff, multiplayer stuff. So I hope I'm wrong, but that is definitely one of my things. But again, the gunplay itself, though, being an infantry player, very, very fun. Very awesome right there. And of course, getting to play multiple maps and things like Conquest and everything is really good. However, and I do need to talk about the maps. I don't know if I'd call them the best maps or anything like that. Obviously, I've literally only played for a couple days. Other maps and other games have been out for years upon years. But these actually feel like they are made for the game modes. They are made to be Battlefield maps. This is not 2042 that was clearly meant to be some kind of big battle royale. And they're like, oh crap, you got to change gears real quick. And then they just randomly fit in 128 players with these random points on there for Conquest and everything, which thank God they are not doing 128 players, at least to my knowledge. It is 64, keep it that way. DICE of the old days figured that out long ago. At least for the most part, seem to have figured it out here. So I'm really glad about that. However, I will say one thing. One of the things that they are testing both in this beta and when the game launches is they're going to have modes for, well, all the modes essentially, so Conquest, Rush, etc. But they're going to have them where you can either play with locked weapons, so only certain weapons that work for each class, like they've had in literally every other Battlefield, aside from the really bad one last time and supposedly this one. And then there's going to be those versions of the game modes with non-locked weapons. Basically, you can put any weapon on there, and they're supposed to incentivize you to still use those weapons in that particular mode, because it's like, oh, you get small little bonuses and everything, which realistically probably really don't do that much. I mean, even I've noticed that they really don't do that much. So that's just something I've noticed right there. However, and I do appreciate them trying to appease to both sides of the player base, because me personally, I want the locked weapons, but I understand some people don't like that. However, I have to say this. Currently, right now in the beta, you can pick either one. When you scroll down on the screen, Conquest is on the left, and you have Conquest locked weapons right there next to it. However, just because of just how people's minds works and everything, everyone's going to go for that first one right there and not pick the locked weapons one. You wanted to test things out, DICE. You want to see how the balance works and how people enjoy it. This is your chance. But I feel like what you need to do during these beta weekends is maybe like every couple of hours, lock the one that is all weapons, lock it, don't let anyone pick it, and have them and force them into the locked weapons one so we can test it out and give you the data that you need right there. And we can try to make a good decision on should we have locked weapons or not locked weapons. That's just my personal opinion, but I feel like by leaving both open, I can find a match for all weapons unlocked, no problem. Locked weapons, that's a different story. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It seems to be depending on the time of the day. Yeah, I think that needs to change. That really does. Because again, as much as I would love to just snap both my fingers and say, locked weapons at launch, done deal, that's it, I know that's not going to happen. So just, if you want to get proper data on this stuff, that's fine. But you need to bring it into an area where we can do this. So lock one mode, force us into the other one. Then lock the one that is the locked weapons and make us play the all weapon unlocked mode. And do that and see how people feel about it. By leaving both, and then, later on during the day, maybe in the beta or on the Sunday or whatever, have both open, let people pick whatever they want. Again, this is your chance to get a bunch of data, but you need to be able to do that somehow. And having one mode clearly not get picked just because of where it's placed on the screen, because of just how humans are, I feel like that needs to be addressed. So that's one thing right there. That's one of the big things for me personally. Now, one thing I am definitely pretty impressed for the most part is actually the performance. Now, again, it's a beta. I know things are still being changed. I'm sure the build that we are playing is a couple of months old. I get that stuff. Seen it for years upon years when it comes to betas and everything. I get that. But overall, the performance has actually been pretty good. I myself over on PC am running a i9 10900K, so it's not a new CPU by any means, and I have a 3080. not a 3080 Ti. I have a 3080. It's a 10 gigabyte version of a card. This was back in 2021 trying to buy a GPU. You got what you got back then. So, because we all knew how that went. But overall, my performance has actually been pretty good. I get around average, I'd say about 110 frames. Obviously, I go into custom graphics and everything, turn things off like anti-aliasing that I don't like, turn down the motion blur, the typical stuff, right? But I don't put everything at low so that I can barely run this game. Like the game looks pretty good overall for the most part. And then I don't know if it's the servers that will do the hiccup or the system itself or the engine or however things work, but there will be times where I'm running and you can see it clearly. It just goes chug, and then both of my normal frames, and then I look at my low 1% frames, because if those are around the same area, that means it's actually, for the most part, pretty well made. Generally, there are times where you'll have a game where, oh yeah, I can hit the 160 frames or whatever you can get, but then like the 1% lows are like at 50 half the time. That's not good. So the fact that they're like this, or pretty close at least, overall is pretty good. But there is one moment into every, I'd say, 7 or 8 minutes, it takes a hit. And I don't know if that's simply because of my card, which I don't think it is, because over the majority it is actually like this, but something's a little whack there. So again, maybe it's just simply because it's an older build, it's a beta, I get that, but we'll have to wait and see how the performance works. I'm not sure how it is over on console, so if you're playing over on PlayStation 5 or Xbox, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to know how it's working out. So that's just one thing. The one big thing that I need to talk about, and this is probably going to take up the rest of the video basically for the most part, vehicles. Okay, gunplay, very good. Modes, for the most part, pretty good. Performance, very solid. Soldier looks, things like that. For the classes, I think they could definitely use a few more tweaks just to kind of make them more unique to stand out. Like in older games, I could tell who was an engineer, who was a support, yada, yada. But over time, I think maybe that's something that can easily be fixed. Vehicles, though. Okay. I don't care what anyone says about not caring about vehicles. This is Battlefield. You want a game with no vehicles? Go play something else. Battlefield has built its existence on vehicles. Now, I'm not saying that these need to be overpowered or anything. I'm not. But there is something with the vehicle gameplay that it doesn't feel right. I'm just going to put it like that. What am I talking about? Give me some examples, Tallen. What's going on here? You're talking about it. Give us some examples. Give us some feedback. Okay. In past Battlefield games, you were able to take something like a tank, and if you were able to flank around a route and you came up behind an enemy vehicle that was obviously not like a buggy or anything like that, so like another tank, an LAV, anything like that, and I shot it in the back, I shot at the treads, or I shot at certain parts of the tank that I knew were the weaknesses, I could do more damage to said vehicle to take it down faster. However, no matter where I am on the tank in terms of hitting it or another land vehicle, it's the same damage across the board. It just is. Or if I'm an infantry player trying to go and flank an enemy vehicle and I get a rocket off, it's always 25. And I'm just like, we had this back in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. How do we not have it in 2025? That needs to change, DICE. You need to vastly improve the vehicle gameplay. Now, I'm not a jet player, but I'm also a helicopter player. I love playing the attack helicopters. However, there are a couple things I noticed. Number one, something with the camera is a little finicky when you're in first-person mode. Like, I always go between first and third, so that if I try to escape something or someone locks onto me, I can dip down, get around them like the mountains and everything. I've been doing that for a long time. That's perfectly fine. But there's something about being in first person. It feels a little janky. I'm not really sure what the proper word is. So helicopters need to be just looked at a little bit. I'm not sure how something like the Little Bird helicopters and, most likely other maps that we have not been able to play yet, hopefully those work out well. But in terms of the attack helicopter, that definitely needs some work right there. Or maybe there's just something that I need to unlock, like a stabilizer gadget or something like that. I'm not really sure. But at this moment, it definitely feels just a little wonky and everything like that. Also, going back to the land vehicles, I know this was a thing, I believe, in Battlefield 5, which I think I played once and I just never played it after that. And 2042, maybe it had this as well. I just honestly don't remember. But with the land vehicles, especially like tanks, LAVs and everything, we get a set amount of ammo. And in past Battlefield games like Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3, you would shoot off a rocket, right? So for example, or a canister or whatever, and you had 4 shots. And if you waited enough long over time, then they would reload automatically. However, it seems in this game, at least for the land vehicles, not so much for the air vehicles, you then have to find one of these like ammo stations, either back at your base or close to, I believe, the first checkpoint or the first, capture zone that you can get that's close to your base. And you're supposed to go and reload there. For the most part, they give you a decent amount of ammo right from the get-go, which is nice. But I think personally for me, and you can tie this to maybe whoever owns maybe the middle checkpoints or somebody who owns, or when I say own, by the way, I simply mean captured. Or maybe there's just something in the middle that you share or whatever. I'm not really sure what would be the best bet here. But I feel like there need to be a couple more stations in terms of doing that. Because as of the way it is right now, it's a little weird in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe again, I might be in the minority here and that's perfectly fine. And if maybe these earlier suggestions I made about making tank gameplay just better, essentially, when it comes to especially vehicles and everything, maybe that would simply fix it. And I'd be okay with having to go back, way into the back and have to do that and everything. I'm totally fine with that, actually. But I think the bottom line is that the vehicle gameplay, especially the land vehicle gameplay, really needs an improvement. I know they brought on Criterion to work on how the vehicles move and everything, which I'm assuming is working out pretty well because the movement itself actually feels fine. It feels really good. Still just trying to get used to the fact of wherever I point my turret, then my turret has to swing like this to finally get there. Like, I get that. It's something I know from 2042, and I believe Battlefield 5 had it. I personally was only really used to like Battlefield 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, where it swung with you regardless, and it was super easy to move and everything. I get they're trying to go for a more mix of realistic and not making the tanks too overpowered. I completely get that, and I'm fine. I'm getting used to it overall. But again, like the way damage is done, the way that if you expose yourself to flank and try to really help out your team and everything, and you get that back shot or anything like that, and you're still doing the same amount of damage, and if you just rolled up right in front of them and shot them head on, that needs to change. That really does. Make tank gameplay the way it was back in 4 in terms of really rewarding skill and getting those good shots off. It really does need to change. Luckily, though, we do have everyone playing their role for the most part, which is really nice. We got engineers using their repair tools, using their rocket launchers. We've got support players throwing out down ammo and healing and everything. I haven't seen too many assault players unless you're playing on one particular map, but again, that's just simply the way it works, especially with conquest and vehicles and everything. Snipers overall doing pretty well, which is cool. I will say, as someone who loves playing engineer, I think this needs to get a little bit of a nerf. Having the ability to have both the rocket launcher attached and the Stinger, which is the anti-air rocket launcher, based on what I've seen, you can attach both at the same time. I might be completely wrong, or maybe this is something they've already noticed and they've already changed it, so fine. But that needs to change. It is not okay to allow the engineer class to use both of those. That is just not okay, not good. One or the other. You pick the rocket launcher? Okay, no Stinger for you. You pick the Stinger? Okay, no rocket launcher for you. That's how it's always been. Tone it down a little bit in terms of the engineers, okay? Just, you gotta tone that down a little bit right there, all right? But yeah, in terms of the vehicles, in terms of the land stuff, that stuff needs to change. So, but overall, I'm actually having fun. It feels like Battlefield. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say. It's like, shouldn't all Battlefield games feel? Go back and play 5. Go back and play 2042. Actually, don't do that. Go back and just play, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3. You still find some servers every now and then you can still play on. And obviously try out this beta. I really hope that this game can do well, but I've been burned a lot in the past, and I know a lot of you have as well. So I am not pre-ordering this game. I'm going to wait for the reviews to come out, see how the servers are, see how the balance is. And again, I'm especially a little worried about the post-launch support, especially if they are releasing a Battle Royale game. If they have a completely separate team working on that, and they still have a good amount of people working on the main game, giving us new maps every season, all that kind of stuff, perfect. I'm fine with that. People want to do the Battle Royale, whatever. I'm going to roll my eyes. I don't like Battle Royales. Never have, never will. It's just the kind of player is. If you like them, great, but I'm not. But if I find out later on down the road that the Battle Royale is getting more support and the main Battlefield game is not, we're going to have some issues. We really are. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am, but I'm a little worried about that. And then obviously the main, the easiest stuff, oh no, we got a battle pass in here. Oh no, they're going to have cosmetics. Like, I get that. So it's EA. It's a company. They're going to go profits first. We all know that. It's just the way it is. I'm really hoping that this can do well. I'm not blind to what EA has done in the past. I know that the DICE that made those old games is not even there anymore. Funny enough, they're making the finals, which I love playing that game. But we're just going to have to wait and see what's going to happen there. So, but now, I want to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on this Battlefield 6 beta and everything? Did you like the trailers and everything? Did you enjoy getting to play it if you're watching this later on after the betas are finished? Or if the game is out right now, like fully out, and you somehow came across this video, what are your thoughts? How well has it done? Did they blow it again? Did they do the DICE? I'm not really sure. But let me know down below in the comments as always. And if you want to see more discussion videos or you want to talk to us live, join us every Friday in the evening. We stream, we play games, we talk, we go about discussions and everything with all things gaming. Doesn't matter what you happen to see on screen. You want to ask a question about something? Shoot us a question in the live chat. We'll answer it right there. And who knows? Maybe your question shows up in our next video or our next short at the very least. But that's going to be it from me, though. I'm Tallen with Direct Gaming. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope to see you guys in future videos. And as always, remember, when it comes to Battlefield, PTFO. You know what I mean. We'll see you in the next one. Johnny.